The spaceship hurtled through the Earth's atmosphere, a fiery streak across the sky, a crash landing in a deserted cornfield. The alien stumbled out, dazed, disoriented. It observed its surroundings, tall stalks of green, a vast expanse of blue above. This was Earth. The alien possessed a unique ability, shape-shifting. It could morph into any life form, mimic its appearance. Its mission was clear: blend in, observe, learn. Survival depended on it. The alien focused its mind. Its body contorted, shifted, transformed. Gone was the extraterrestrial being. In its place stood a human, or at least what it perceived a human to be. It had studied human anatomy, absorbed countless hours of visual data. But nothing could fully prepare it for this. The feel of skin, the weight of limbs, the subtle nuances of human expression. It was a jarring experience, yet exhilarating. The alien, now disguised as a human, took a tentative step into its new world, uncertain of what awaited. The alien felt a surge of vulnerability. It was alone, stranded, a stranger in a strange land. But amidst the fear there was a flicker of excitement, a sense of wonder. This was a fresh start, an opportunity to experience something entirely new. The alien, in its human form, walked towards the faint glow of city lights in the distance, ready to embrace the unknown. The city was a sensory overload, noise, lights, a cacophony of human voices. The alien felt overwhelmed. Out of its depth, it stuck to the shadows, observing, analyzing, trying to make sense of it all. It watched how humans interacted, their gestures, their expressions, the subtle cues that governed their behavior. It began to imitate, mirroring their movements, copying their speech patterns. It was a clumsy attempt at first, like a child learning to walk, but gradually it became more adept, smoother, more convincing. It learned to blend in, to disappear into the crowd. The alien chose the name John, a common, unassuming name. It rented a small apartment, found a menial job. It wanted to experience human life in its most mundane form, to understand what it meant to be one of them. John observed the humans around him, their routines, their habits, their hopes and dreams. He saw their kindness, their compassion, but also their cruelty, their selfishness, their capacity for both great and terrible things. He was both fascinated and repulsed. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. John settled into a routine: work, eat, sleep, repeat. He became a ghost, a shadow, existing on the periphery of human society, observing, analyzing, trying to decipher the complexities of the human psyche. He was drawn to their art, their music, their literature. He found solace in their stories, their expressions of joy, sorrow, love, and loss. It resonated with him on a level he couldn't quite comprehend. Was he starting to feel, to understand human emotions? It was an unsettling thought. One evening, John stumbled upon a group of children playing in the park. He watched them, their laughter, their innocence. It was infectious. He felt a tug at the corner of his lips, a smile. He hadn't realized he was even capable of such an expression. He sat on a bench observing the children. A wave of sadness washed over him, a longing for something he couldn't quite place. Was this what it meant to be human? To feel such a complex range of emotions? To experience joy and sorrow in equal measure? It was both exhilarating and terrifying. John found himself drawn to a woman named Sarah. She worked at the local library, a quiet, bookish woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. He started visiting the library more often, engaging her in conversations about books, sharing his thoughts and observations. He found himself looking forward to their interactions, to the sound of her laughter, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about something she was passionate about. One rainy afternoon, John found Sarah sheltering under the awning of a bookshop. He joined her, their shoulders brushing. He felt a jolt, a strange sensation that sent a shiver down his spine. He realized he was attracted to her, not just intellectually, but physically, emotionally. It was an alien feeling, yet exhilarating. He wanted to tell her everything about who he was, where he came from, but something held him back: fear, uncertainty, the knowledge that his true identity would shatter the fragile connection they had built. So he kept up the charade, playing the role of the affable stranger, content to simply exist in her orbit. John found himself buying a bouquet of flowers. He left them anonymously at Sarah's doorstep. He knew it was a foolish human gesture, but he couldn't help himself. He wanted to see her smile, to know that he, in his own small way, had brought a moment of joy into her life. One day John had an accident at work, a minor injury, a cut on his hand. But as the blood welled up, something strange happened. It shimmered, shifted. For a brief moment, his true form flickered beneath the surface. His disguise faltered. Thankfully, no one seemed to notice, but it was a close call. The incident shook John. It was a stark reminder of his true nature, of the charade he was living. It made him question everything, his purpose, his identity. Was he losing himself in this human guise, becoming too attached to this world, to Sarah? He tried to distance himself from Sarah, to resist the pull he felt towards her, but it was no use. He was in too deep. His feelings for her were too strong. He was torn, trapped between two worlds, unable to fully embrace either. John started having nightmares, vivid, disturbing dreams of his home planet, of his people, of the mission he had left behind. He would wake up in a cold sweat, his heart pounding. The line between reality and illusion was blurring. He was losing his grip. Section 6, Revelation, the unveiling of the truth. John couldn't ignore the signs, the flickering image in the mirror and the strange dreams, the growing sense of unease. He wasn't who he pretended to be. He was living a lie, a dangerous one. He had a choice to make. Cling to the illusion of his human life, or confront the truth of his alien existence. He decided to confide in Sarah, to tell her everything. It was a risky move, he knew that, but he couldn't keep up the charade any longer. He owed her that much, at least. He invited her to his apartment. His hands trembled as he poured her a cup of tea. He took a deep breath. "Sarah," he began, his voice shaking, "there's something you need to know." The words tumbled out, a torrent of truth and fear. He told her about his home planet, his mission, his ability to shapeshift. He showed her his true form, the alien beneath the human facade. To John's surprise, Sarah didn't scream, didn't run away. She listened patiently, her eyes wide with wonder. When he finished, she simply said, "I knew there was something different about you." Section 7, Acceptance, embracing the human experience. Sarah's acceptance washed over John like a tidal wave. She didn't judge him, didn't fear him. She accepted him for who he was, alien and all. It was the most liberating experience of his existence. He realized then that he had been wrong. His true self wasn't the alien form he had been hiding. It was the human connection he had forged with Sarah. He spent hours talking to Sarah, telling her about his planet, his people, his journey. Sarah, in turn, shared stories of Earth, of humanity, of her own life. They found solace in their differences, a shared understanding that transcended species and planets. For the first time since his arrival on Earth, John felt truly seen, understood. He realized that his journey had been leading him to this point, to this connection. John realized he no longer feared discovery. He had found something on Earth far more valuable than his mission. He had found acceptance, love. He had found a home. Section 8, Transformation, the metamorphosis of the soul. John's transformation wasn't physical, it was far deeper than that. It was a transformation of the soul. He had arrived on Earth a stranger, an outsider looking in. But through his interactions with humans, with Sarah, he had begun to understand what it truly meant to be alive, to feel, to love, to connect. He still possessed his alien abilities, could still shift back to his true form, but he chose to remain human. It felt right, natural. He'd grown to appreciate the fragility of the human form, the fleeting beauty of their existence. He continued to live his life as John, working at the library alongside Sarah, spending his days surrounded by books and stories and the quiet murmur of human voices. He found joy in the ordinary, in the everyday moments that made up a human life. John knew he couldn't stay on Earth forever. His people would eventually come looking for him, and when they did, he would have to make a choice. But for now, he allowed himself to live in the moment, to embrace the life he had built, the love he had found. Section 9, Reflection, a journey of self-discovery. Years later, John stood on a hilltop overlooking the city. The lights twinkled below like 1,000 fireflies. He thought about his journey, the crash landing, the fear, the confusion, the gradual awakening, the love. He had come to Earth on a mission of observation, but he had discovered something far more profound. He had discovered himself. He looked up at the night sky, at the stars that glittered like diamonds scattered across a black velvet cloth. Somewhere out there, beyond the vast expanse of space, was his home, his people, but was it really? He no longer felt the pull, the longing. He had found a new home, a new purpose. He had found love. He had found humanity, and in doing so he had found himself. He was no longer sure where he belonged. Perhaps he never truly knew. Maybe that was the point of it all, the journey, the search for meaning, the discovery that sometimes the greatest journey is the one that leads us back to ourselves. John took a deep breath of the cool night air. He closed his eyes, listened to the symphony of the city, the distant hum of traffic, a dog barking in the distance, a baby crying. Life, human life. He smiled. Maybe, he whispered to the wind, just maybe I was meant to be human all along.